On this episode of Fly Fishing Unfiltered, we cover fly fishing for migrating bull trout from Lake Billy Chinook to the Metolius River, covering the types of water, tactics, gear, flies, and much more.
Hey everyone, David, Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters, coming to you with another Fly Fishing Unfiltered, and today I'm joined by
Gabe with Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters.
Welcome, Gabe. It's been a while since you've been on the screen here.
Yes.
Good to have you. Today we're talking about a species that gets us excited every fall season, and I have Gabe here because he has chased this particular species a lot in Central Oregon, and so we're going to highlight today bull trout. So Gabe, there are a couple different types of bull trout, for instance, in the Metolius River system, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And what are those two different types of bull trout?
So they're both bull trout, They're both a char species. The big difference is one's a resident and one is a lake run fish.
Okay.
So
anything different between the lake run fish versus the residents?
yeah, the residents, two big things. They're in year round. The other big thing is oftentimes they're smaller.
Yep.
You're not going to find as big of resident bulls. There are some that are big, but the photos you're seeing of these giant 30-inch bull trout, those are all going to be the lake run fish. I like to look at the lake run fish as almost like steelhead.
Yep.
They run up in the fall. They follow the kokanee on their way up, and they migrate and feed on the kokanee, and then they just start peeling off into little feeder tributaries and spawn in there. Those are the two main differences.
Right. So the biggest thing I think for most people, of course, is size, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when people say size doesn't matter, it kind of matters.
With fish, for sure.
For fish. Trucks, maybe. I don't know. But I was doing a little bit of research prior to us filming this, and I'm going to ask you a question. Did you know the largest bull trout state record caught came out of Lake Billy Chinook?
Yeah.
And do you know how many pounds it was?
I think it was a little over 40.
It was 28 pounds.
Oh, I thought it was...
28 pounds, so that is a massive bull trout and well over 30 inches. So these bull trout in Lake Billy Chinook all season long, all year long, they're feeding on kokanee, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's leading to this massive growth size. And the resident in the Metolius River, they're feeding also on kokanee when they come in some. They're feeding on some whitefish, they're feeding on some sculpins too, but they just don't have the same food source as the lake run bulls, correct?
No. And occasionally bull trout will eat natural bugs too.
100%.
Less so dry flies.
Yep.
I've heard of it happening actually quite a few times. I haven't personally had it happen.
Sure.
But you will catch them nymphing for rainbows and whitefish
100%.
just as much as fishing a streamer.
Yeah.
Especially the residents. Those residents, they're in the river year round. They see those bugs. They know it's food.
Yeah.
When it's a little colder and they don't want to move as much, it's a lot easier to just move a little bit this way to eat a bug than to chase down a fish.
So I know in the spring you got into some bull trout on Lake Billy Chinook and using the power boat and doing that, and we did that together, and that was a lot of fun. But October is kind of the moment where they start making that shift from the lake to the Metolius River. Is that correct?
I would say it starts in August in the lower parts of the river.
Okay.
And kind of work, like steelhead, there'll be an early part of the year where there's some lake run fish that are trickling in.
Right.
You're not at the peak, but lower in the system you can totally find them.
Okay.
And then as you get into September, October, November, and then December, late November, late December is when it kind of starts to taper off.
Okay. October though is really the prime time for the kokanee spawning. So we're the last week of October. We're kind of in prime time. They're spawning. The kokanee are finding their reds and building their reds, and they're doing their thing. So at this point, the bull trout have moved into the Metolius River. I think the big takeaway for me though is there's something that also happens after the spawn. That bull trout are one of those species where they will eat the flesh of fish. And that's a really unique thing. So it's not just that they're chasing the kokanee in, and then once the kokanee spawn and die, they move on about their day. They're still eating flesh, which is kind of a cool thing to fish. So
Yeah.
we're going to cover here, moving forward, we're going to cover, as we do, tactics, gear, some flies that we recommend. We're not going to give specific locations on the Metolius River because it is a smaller stream and it can't support a massive amount of fly anglers. But you can do some online research and find those locations for yourself. The big thing that we want people here to understand today is that we've got a resident bull trout. They can be large, up to 20 plus inches. But if you're looking for those really massive bull trout, this is the season. October, maybe September, October, November is really that season before they go into their actual spawning. So next, I think what we should do is we should get into the tactics of fly fishing for bull trout. So let's get started with that. All right, this is super exciting. I love this time of year. Fall is an amazing time of year to be able to fish in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the Metolius, the lake run, and the residents, and helping us and our viewers understand what type of water we're fishing for bull trout in and the tactics that we're using. So if you can, since we're right in the kind of the heat of the migratory bulls, the big gnarly bulls, tell us a little bit about the type of water that you're fishing specifically for the migrating. Then we'll get into the residents, but the type of water you're fishing and the tactics that you're using for that type of water.
Yeah. The type of water is pretty simple. Not super deep.
Okay.
You don't need anything crazy to get down incredibly deep. There are some spots that you will, but if you think about it, we mentioned these fish are following the kokanee up.
Yep.
They're eating kokanee as they swim up the river. These kokanee are going to migrate in 3 to 5 feet of water, a couple feet off the bank.
Yeah. And they're moving up the system. They're
Yeah.
trying to get to their spots that they know they're going to create their reds. So it's not like they're really holding in spots till they get to their reds.
No, I mean, if you've ever fished it this time of year and you've seen red kokanee everywhere, you could put every fly ever invented in front of them, and they just move out of the way.
They want to get to their spot.
They're just in there to spawn,
Yep.
and the bull trout are going to follow them up and eat. So if you've ever seen underwater footage of, if someone puts their phone or GoPro or whatever it might be underneath a log, and there's a couple bull trout sitting under there, and it's 5 feet deep, very great ambush spot for them to eat those kokanee that are swimming by. They have some cover from the log, and then they're right in the migratory lane, right off the bank, and they can go down, eat a kokanee, and go right back to that log and have good cover from prey and all sorts of stuff like that. So the main thing I'm focusing is the inside of the river this time of year for those big fish.
Right.
Like I said, there are some spots where those fish will be out a little farther, but 95% of the time they're going to be in pretty tight to the bank.
For sure.
The other thing with the lake run fish, streamers. I have caught them nymphing. You will every once in a while.
Yep.
But if you think about it, those fish are in a lake. Their diet is primarily fish.
They're eating meat.
Yeah. I mean,
It's jaws. Basically,
there's-
jaws of Lake Billy Chinook.
There's a reason they
Yeah.
get to the size that they do. Lake Billy Chinook has an absurd amount of different species in there. And it's all just food for these bull trout. So they,
They're the big dogs.
8 months out of the year, they are just sitting in the lake gorging on other fish.
Yep.
So when they come into the river system and they're following these kokanee up, they're still eating fish.
Yep.
So streamers are going to be the best way to target them. With that being said, color this time of year can be pretty important. You think of salmon, you think of when they start getting spawned out. When they first come in, they're going to be pretty white, silver, grays. So any white streamers will do very well. And then as you get kind of later, when they start to spawn, they get a little bit more red and green zombie colors. That's where, blacks and reds and greens start to do very well.
Sure.
And then past that point, you get into more of the fleshy colors when they start getting really spawned out and decaying. That's when you can kind of start getting into those more shrimpy colors that look very similar to flesh. And if you really want to get crazy, you can tie a red or flesh colored fly and mark it up with a Sharpie
Yeah.
to make it look like it is, still partially alive but very much decaying, and give it that real look.
So, and we'll touch a little bit more on some flies that we like, some that we sell here and some that we may not sell here at this juncture. But when you're talking streamer fishing, and we talked about this with Joseph when he came in to talk to us about sea run, cutthroat, trout fishing in rivers, are we talking about upriver type of streamer fishing and stripping back in? Are we talking about across river stripping back in? Are we talking about swinging a fly through a run like we would a steelhead and stripping back in? So make sure that the viewers are understanding, when we talk streamer fishing, how are you approaching this in that water?
Streamer fishing. That's the cool part about streamers. It's not like, you can do it one way or the other. These fish it's an aggressive eat.
Yeah.
They're not, there's the more weird things that fly is doing as it's moving makes it look like a wounded fish.
100%.
So fish it upriver of you. I mean, definitely swinging downriver and covering that inside, and then hard strips and a pause on that inside portion of the swing can be very effective. But you will still find fish fishing it upriver. Not a ton out in the middle necessarily. Just it's a lot. That river can get pretty quick out in the middle.
Sure.
There are some spots that they will be out in the middle and scattered through the inside and outside, but for the most part, it's going to be that inside majority right
So
now.
again, it's that motion of the fly. So whether we're casting upriver, we're casting downriver, maybe not as much across river, but are you actually swinging flies through water as well?
Yeah,
and
100%.
stripping it kind of as it's swinging through a run? Are you stripping as you're swinging through a run? Because yes, they want to see that motion of a wounded fish, essentially.
Yeah, I don't strip it a ton during the swing.
Okay.
At least not in the in a typical swing. I'm gonna cast it straight out, put a mend in, let it get some depth, and then right when it starts swinging, I'm not gonna do anything. But once it gets to that inner half of the swing, where you're in kind of that strike zone for where those kokanee should be running up, that's when I'm going to start putting some action on it, start making it move faster, look like it's fleeing, but not as much in the first half of that swing.
So those of the people that are watching this video, if they have done some smallmouth bass fishing, very similar types of tactics in terms of the movement of a fly in the water and attracting that fish with maybe some of our more articulated patterns, that kind of mentality of a fish attacking a fly is kind of what we're looking for.
Exactly.
And we talked about September, October, November really being kind of that migration of the kokanee and the bull trout, the non-resident bull trout coming into the system. They do, the migratory bulls do stay in the system beyond. They will be in the system into December, and so as they get ready to spawn into some of these other rivers, some of these really cooler creeks that are coming in, you're right, you can still do some nymphing and you will still pick up some really large bull trout nymphing. But from what I'm hearing and understanding from you and my own experiences, our larger bull trout, the migratory bull trout, they really do key into those fish style patterns.
Yeah, I've never had a chance to interview one. I've caught some pretty large bulls nymphing. I've also caught some pretty large bulls throwing streamers.
Right.
It's just, they're like steelhead. I try and tell myself that. I don't know, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. One day you get lucky, the other day you get your butt kicked.
Yeah.
But I would say a lot of those bigger fish are going to react more to some of these much larger flies. I mean, I know people out there that are throwing legitimate musky flies.
Oh, for
10
sure.
inch,
Yep.
fire tigery, weird stuff. And, it causes those big fish to eat because it's like, what in the world is that? It pissed me off. I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
So I would say for a lot of those bigger quality fish, yes, you will have a little bit higher of a chance. Like I said, not to say you can't with nymphing. I've definitely.
And so when we are kind of getting away from, and we'll do more videos on bull trout in this region, specifically the Metolius River, but the residents, I think are leaning more towards, you can still streamer fish for residents, but they tend to be more in line with taking sculpin if they're going after that, because that's in the river system constantly for them. So it's a prey that they're used to seeing. But you will also pick up more residents while you're out there nymphing.
Yeah, I've heard many people say it the best way to catch a bull trout is to nymph them.
Yep.
I think it's very true. It's a lot less anticlimactic than fishing a streamer.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah, the residents, the big thing with that is they're so much deeper.
Yeah.
So to get down to them with a nymph is much easier than a streamer. When it's just residents in there, now is when you bring in these super heavy sinking lines. Right. Whereas with the with the lake runs, you might only need sink 3. Even I've caught them with intermediate.
Okay.
Then you go into these resident fish, and I'm throwing triple densities, sink 7s. I'm trying to lose flies on the bottom.
Right. One of the first spots I ever took you to the Metolius to go see and witness the bull trout came from a dear friend of mine, Gary Calicott, who's no longer with us. Missy Gary. Miss our days on the Metolius in the middle of the winter, thinking that we're going to catch fish on size 22 blueing olives. But Gary showed us a spot that is well known. We're not giving out locations here, but to have sometimes up to 50 bull trout just sitting in a deep pool. And that's where we would fish those really heavy flies and focus on getting those flies basically on the bottom and twitching them through all those bull trout. So
yeah, I mean, I say fish flies you don't care about. Like my goal, especially with those fish that are glued to the bottom, and this is something that Gary told me, is I want my fly to get almost stuck on a rock or lodged right in front of them. And when I say right, not like to where you're going to snag them, but where they can see it. You want it to skip bottom and hang up on a rock, and then you are going to rip it really hard so it looks like it's just in, oh crap,
you want that motion again of a fish that all of a sudden is trying to escape something, because that does trigger their instincts to attack.
Yeah. And you go to some of these spots. There's one for people who fish the Metolius a ton called Dolly Hole.
Yeah.
Makes sense why it got that name, because you go stand on the bank and it is, I mean, you can see the flashaboo from Dolly Llama's top to bottom. I mean, and there are fish sitting Dolly Llama here, fish sitting here, and it'll eat a Dolly Llama. It's staring at that thing all day. It's about how you make them react. Yeah. It's about what it looks like when it's moving, not necessarily what fly you're using. Okay. Size and profile is important. Outside of that, I don't think it matters a ton. Yeah. I think more so it's going to be, how can I get this fish to react to this fly or piss it off?
Yeah.
You just want to create an aggression eat out of these residents specifically.
So what I'm hearing from you is Dolly Hole would be a great place if you're kind of hurting on money and you need some flies to put on the old scuba gear and maybe go grab yourself some free flies.
If you want to freeze your butt off, yes.
If you want a ice cream headache without the joy of eating ice cream, go for it. But yeah, you're right. Dolly Hole is a fantastic location. Well, I said we weren't going to tell anyone any locations, but that is your free one. That's the only one you're getting today.
I didn't give out GPS coordinates.
Yeah, no GPS coordinates.
The people who know it know it. That is one thing too. Is don't fish flies you care about.
Yeah, you will lose them.
You will lose them for sure.
And these don't have to be like overly complicated flies either in terms of tying them. You don't have to get crazy with articulations. We of course love articulated flies, just the way they move in the water. We think is going to attract a fish more. The bull trout, from what I understand, they are looking for the weaker of the fish, the easier fish to eat. And that's why when you as a fly angler are out and you're out there catching rainbows or whitefish and you're reeling them up and that whitefish or rainbow is kind of flopping on its side because it's fighting against us, that draws the bulls in. They come in, and I have had many times where I've been out with friends and they're standing up on top looking down and I'm fighting, a rainbow in, and I'm like having the time of my life, and all of a sudden the line goes limp. And you know why the line went limp?
Bull trout swimming at you with a
the bull trout's coming with that fish, and my friends up above are like hooting and hollering because they're watching the whole thing like it's Animal Planet or something. So again, don't fish flies that you ultimately care a lot about. You're gonna lose flies. It's gonna happen, but we're gonna get into flies here in just a few minutes. So anything else in terms of type of water? Resident tend to be in deeper water. migratory tend to be in the more shallow, almost like steelheadish water, but are also looking for structure and things to kind of hide underneath. Is there anything else about the type of water or the tactics that you want to share?
Not a ton.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mentioned multiple times at this point, they're like steelhead. We have a customer comes in here, Jack, he moved from out of state, and he's like, I really want to go chase bulls. I'm like, cool, man. This is a great time of year for it. Like, you want to go catch a big one? This is the time of year. And he came in the other day, and he was like, I don't understand it, dude. I'm getting my butt kicked out there. I'm like, just because they're in there doesn't mean they're going to eat. It's like steelhead. Yeah. You could swing your fly over 15 fish in a day and not one's going to eat, and you'll never know.
They may have just had their big T-bone steak. At the time you go swing a fly right past or strip a fly right past them, they may have just had their big meal for the day.
I think the crappiest part about the Metolius and bull trout as a whole, they live in very, very clear river systems. Yeah. So with steelhead, who knows if there's a fish in there. With bull trout, you're like, you are right there.
I can see you.
My fly.
Now don't pull.
Don't. So
don't pull the teeny method of throwing rocks at them to get them to move.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about bull trout towards the end of this and the importance of taking good care of them. But you're right. You'll see them and it'll just drive you bonkers because you can't do anything to move that fish.
Yep. I just think you got to have a certain want to go catch those really big fish. You will catch a lot of the fish in the 20-inch, 20-inch range. Majority of fish will be that size. It takes some time, or it doesn't. Who knows? You could go out there and catch 30-inch bull your first time. That's like steelhead, you know. But it can take some time to find that big fish that you're looking for, similar to steelhead.
But that's what we're out here for, right?
Exactly.
It's the thrill of the hunt and the thrill of the chase, and that's what I love about bass fishing and carp fishing and all some of these other non-rainbow trout species that we get to chase in the Pacific Northwest. And if, by the way, if you are listening and watching these and you live somewhere other than the Pacific Northwest, you really need to get your ass out here to the Pacific Northwest. Come fish with our guides. We have so many freaking species out here, from tiger muskie to carp to bass to bull trout in lakes and in rivers, and of course rainbows and browns. And I mean, it's just like, it's an endless steelhead, endless supply of species. So get your ass out here and come enjoy some of the greatest fishing you're going to experience. So thank you for sharing types of water to look for. Thank you for sharing tactics in that water. And next, I think we'll go ahead and transition into gear, because gear is definitely very different for these migratory fish than a standard guy that's chasing the rainbows. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. All right, so we have covered types of water. We've covered how much fun chasing some of these really big bull trout can be, and it's fun going after the resident as well. But it brings us to the topic of gear, and I know in every single one of our segments we talk about gear, and that's not because we're wanting to sell gear, although we are a for-profit fly shop, and how we are able to do videos like this is to sell product, but that's not what this is about. This is really about understanding, if you're going to go chase this species, what kind of gear, how heavy a gear should they be looking to get. So let's start with the streamer fishing, since we're really keyed in on this video on the migratory bull trout. Walk me through a weight of fly rod. Are we using spey rods? Are they all single hand rods? So walk me through the fly rod portion of this.
Yeah, it's the single hand versus spey, dealer's choice, really. They're the one part about the Metolius for a spey rod that can be tough is you got stuff from my back to the wall behind you. So for a spey rod, I mean, even a single hand, that can be tough, but a single hand, you can manipulate everything a little easier and get it to go out.
Sure.
But
unless your name's David, and then you struggle manipulating the line altogether.
Then you can't get it out anyway. But
we're talking about some other David, not this guy.
You can do both. You know, if you have a steelhead spey rod, 6 or 7 weight, 8 weight, 7 weight's good. That's if I were.
If you had your go-to, would it be in the middle there, a 7 weight fly rod?
Yeah. As far as single hand goes, 7s or 8 weights.
Okay.
I mean, yes, they're very big fish. They fight pretty hard. I've really only had one fish that's like, holy crap, where's this thing going?
Yeah.
A lot of these big fish, or bull trout in general, they dog you.
Yeah.
They don't go on long, crazy screaming runs.
It's not a steelhead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The majority of this 7 and 8 weight, you do need some backbone to turn the fish, but a lot of
100%.
it, you're
Yeah.
going to want a heavier, stouter stick as a fly delivery system. You don't want to throw this on a 6 weight all day. Your arm is going to be on crutches by the end of the day. Having a 7 or an 8 weight, even a 9 weight, it as long as you can turn these flies over easier, it will make the day much more enjoyable for you rather than having to fight to get these flies out. Because you will be doing a lot of casting to find these fish. You're not going to go out there and just rope them all day and be like, I'm good, I'm going home.
Right.
You're gonna be.
It's gonna take work.
Yeah, you're gonna be working for them. So
For sure.
having a rod that can turn these over easy, you're not having to fight it, is very important.
Okay. So 7 weights, 8 weights kind of is where we're leaning towards, both single hand and spay if you're wanting to do the spay. There are a couple of spots on the Metolius that do open up a little bit and do provide an opportunity to swing for bowls and to use your spay rod, which I think is great. And will give you a little bit of a break from casting these big flies with single hand rods. Residence, a little bit smaller. You go on 6 weights, 5 weights. Anything on that side?
I'm still gonna throw 7s and
Okay.
8 weights. Again, for me, it's I don't want to throw my arm out, especially with the residence. Now you're throwing some heavy sinking lines.
That's true.
You've probably heard us mention between 5 weights and 8 weights on this YouTube channel. I mean, almost in every video.
Yeah.
They are. If you have a 5 weight and an 8 weight, you can
Kinda
chase
cover everything.
just about any fish that is
Yeah.
in Oregon and Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, those 2 rods will cover your basis. For bull trout, I'm gonna just say 7 or 8 weight,
Okay.
kind of across the board. Not to say you can't on a 6 weight.
I've seen I've been with people on as we're nymphing for trout, rainbows, and I've seen them land them on a 5 weight. And I do want to. There's one caveat I want to say with a heavier weight rod, and we covered this with another species recently, and that is, I do want to land these bull trout quickly. Mm-hmm. I do want to turn that fish quickly. Bull trout are a protected species, and I know we're going to touch on this a little bit again towards the end of this video, but we want to get these things landed. We don't want to overplay these fish. And having the backbone of a 7 weight or an 8 weight, we're going to be able to control that fight a lot more, bring them to hand faster, and release them back into the wild faster. Important to keep them wet, especially. So we'll talk a little bit more about that again at the end of this video. I want to talk about a few other types of gear that we should focus on here. In this case, a reel with a good drag system. Is that something that you're going to want, something with decent drag?
I don't think so necessarily. Like I said, I've not had many fish that are like
That are running, screaming.
They're not.
Okay.
I've had maybe 1 or 2 fish that, one for sure that I can remember. I'm sure there's another one.
Okay.
But not a ton of fish that are just like, holy crap, I'm glad I have a really good drag. Majority of the fish, they're just going to, and you're going to pull
almost like a
bit.
salmon.
They fight very Chinookish.
Very much just like on the bottom, and you're bringing them back down.
They're just, you're going to bring them up, and they're just going to slowly dog you back down, and you're going to bring them up, and it's just going to be weight, you know. You're not necessarily going to need an insane drag that can stand up to, whatever.
Okay.
You don't need all that. I mean, you can if you want, but yeah, they're not.
So yeah, I told you, we're not about just selling you a bunch of gear. We're giving you the honest truth. That's what Fly Fishing Unfiltered is all about, giving you the honest truth. Let's talk about tapered leader, or if we're even using tapered leader, short section of line. Let's talk about what types of lines. It is a colder river system, or what is your go-to lines. So let's cover, we've gone from the fly rod to the reel. Let's talk about the lines, tippet, tapered leader, all that.
Yeah. I'll start with the lines. If you want to get one, do it all. You don't really want to have one that's like, oh, I'm fishing a little deeper spot, I'm fishing a shallower spot. A triple density that goes from float, intermediate, sink 3 isn't a bad bet. There are also triple densities that go sink 3, sink 5, sink 7. The cool part about triple densities is you can control them a little bit better, and you can with all sinking lines, but I feel like you have a little more control with the triple density. Now, if I'm going to break it into, okay, I got resident fish or lake run fish. For those resident fish, I am throwing something heavy, whether that is straight sink 7, sink tip, fly line, or if that's like I said, sink 3, sink 5, sink 7 triple density, which is my personal preference. I think the triple densities make your fly line kick a little straighter. You have a little more tension, so when you move that fly, you're going to be moving more of the fly rather than the belly and the fly line. The issue with a lot of these, you go to straight sink 7, now you're going to have a big bow in your fly line, which when you go to move it, it'll move it. It'll obviously move the fly, but not as much if you have
more of a straight line.
A straight line down.
Yep.
When you pull that line, it's not as much slack. You're just moving.
You're going to get
fly.
more action on those flies, which again we talked about is kind of we think is the critical component of fishing streamers for these big fish. Okay, so lines.
I gotta do lake run lines.
All right.
As far as lake runs go, like I said, nothing crazy. Light triple densities, sink 3s. I've found them on intermediates. Floating lines with short sink tips.
Okay.
We have little short sections of 5-foot T8. You could throw 10 feet of T8 on there. Just something to get it down in the water column. It doesn't need to be down a ton. Like I said, they're in 3 to 5 feet of water. The other huge thing with fly lines for both of these, whether it's residence or lake run, is the type of core that your fly line is. The Metolius is freezing.
It is cold.
So you take a warm water fly line out there, it's going to coil and crack, and you're going to be fighting it all day.
You're going to hate it.
Yep. So having a cold water core fly line, it might sound like, what? That's dumb. Trust me, I've wasted many fly lines being like, I use this for bass. It'll be fine. It can crack your fly line. It will if you do it enough, and it will definitely coil, and it just becomes...
It will be a nightmare to cast. Even going away from the cracking of the line, just trying to cast a line that is not meant for cold water like that, it's going to ruin your day.
Yeah.
You're going to get pissed off.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be like me out on a golf course trying to drive a golf ball, throwing stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand with you don't want to be miserable.
Yeah.
You want an 8-weight to turn those flies over easy. You don't want to be fighting your fly line all day. Otherwise, what's supposed to be fun and enjoyable is just going to turn into, I hate this. I want to go home and sit on the couch.
Yep.
So having these few things to kind of help you will make it much more enjoyable.
Completely agree. So let's now transition to leaders. What are we doing on that side? Shorter leaders, kind of similar to what we're doing with steelhead. Walk us through that, and then, what exactly you're fishing there.
Yeah, I personally fish fluorocarbon leaders.
Okay.
Some people are split on that. It has a little higher wet knot strength. It's invisible in the water, and it sinks.
Okay.
The other big thing for me that I think a lot of people overlook with fluorocarbon is mono has a little bit of stretch. It has a little bit of give. Fluorocarbon is hard. It's not going to give. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit better hook penetration when a fish eats the fly. When I go and do that strip set, right in there, there's no give in the leader. You're getting a little bit more true of a hook set. You can totally just buy a leader off the shelf, cut it down, and fish it that way. I like to build out my leaders, so I'll start with 30-pound fluorocarbon, 6 inches of that, down to 25-pound fluorocarbon, 6-ish inches of that, and then down to 20-pound. With the 25-pound, you could go 6 inches to a foot, and then with 20-pound, 6 inches to a foot. And you could fish straight off the 20-pound, but what I do a lot of the times is I just put a swivel on the end of that 20-pound and then tie 16 off the back of that, about a foot of 16, foot and a half. In the end, you want to have your leader be about 4 feet, so similar to steelhead.
Yep.
The big thing with the swivel for me with this, you're going to get some line twist casting and aerializing these streamers as much as you are, especially big deer-haired, synthetic flies that are gonna catch the wind or the air pretty good and twist, and that's a nightmare too. Your line will start to twist up, and you're fighting your fly line all day to uncoil it and stretch it out. So having something as simple as a little micro swivel can make a huge difference.
For those purists out there, you can do it without a swivel. I grew up doing it without a swivel.
Yeah, no, you totally can.
There is, there's some things that have advanced in fly fishing, and utilizing the swivels in certain scenarios is actually very beneficial. So
yeah, I mean, for me, you know this, I want to have fun. If I start getting pissed off, days can go downhill very quick.
I've never seen you pissed off on a river.
He's heard many of rants where I'm just like, I'm sitting down. I cannot do this right now. I am so pissed.
I can't think of one time ever.
Well, there's been many, especially on the Deschutes.
That cursed W word wins.
Yeah. So the swivel for me just eliminates that frustration, and your line over time will still twist a little bit, but it's going to eliminate major parts of it.
Okay. So 4 to 5 foot leaders, shorter leaders. So we're not going ultra fine, 9, 10 foot leaders. No. These are predatory fish. And I do want to say thank you for mentioning it. They have hard mouths.
Yes.
And as we talk about gear, I'm going to transition this to something that we don't talk a lot about. But a good pair of pliers. In this case, whether it's this species or another one that I know you like to chase, which is tiger muskie, these mother effers, they will cut your hands up bad.
Oh yeah, I've had many times where I catch a really nice fish. I'm not even thinking. I'm full of adrenaline. I'm like, holy crap, such a nice fish, and I just don't even think. Go to pop the fly with my hands, take a photo, and my hand feels wet afterwards, and I look down, and my finger's bleeding. I'm like, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, oh, well, probably because I just stuck my hand in this fish's mouth that has some teeth.
And the larger, the older these bull trout get, the gnarlier their mouths get.
They don't. The thing is that it can be. They don't look extremely gnarly and sharp like tiger muskie, but I can tell you they're sharp.
Oh, it's like a serrated knife.
Yeah,
they are very, very sharp. So that is one piece of gear that I want to make sure that I communicate to people. A good pair of pliers. You don't have to break the bank and go with Hatch, although Hatch makes some pretty badass pliers. We've got some Umpqua options down there that are very affordable. But you are going to want a decent sized net, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to want a decent pair of pliers because these are hard mouths and they are sharp mouths. You don't want to be just sticking your hand in there because you're going to come away bleeding.
Yep. Yeah, the net thing's a good point. I mean, you can totally tail these fish, just like steelhead. If you're going to have a net, you don't want to have one that's too small. I've had some fish some extremely large fish that I've almost lost because you get the head in the net and it's way too big. I mean, it's like
the tail's hanging over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even close to fitting, and it flops out, and then it gets in the net again, and then it flops out, and you're like, oh, I'm beyond screwed right now. And then finally you get it in on the third time. I had one where finally we get it in on the third time, and right when it got scooped, the leader snapped. And I mean, it was just like, keep this thing in the net at all costs. So if you're gonna carry a net, you might as well have one that has a bigger basket.
Yeah, for sure. So 2 things again that we don't typically talk about in these videos. Good size net. Of course, if you're a steelhead person, you've got steelhead nets and this is going to work just fine. And just a good pair of pliers. Make sure you get one with a retractor on it so you're not losing them. I've lost a fair number of pliers. And they do cost money, so we want to make sure that you're taking care of that. So I think that covers pretty much everything for the most part in the terms of that gear. The other gear that I want to talk about is layering, because it gets cold out there. Yeah. And it sometimes gets cold and wet.
Yep. Or snowy.
Snowy. So boot foot waders,
yep.
Really nice in the Metolius. Even in summer, man, that river is cold. and I know a couple of people that live out there.
Reese,
If you watch this, Reese, I got a lot of respect for you being out there in shorts.
he wet wades in winter.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
Like snowing, and he is wet wading the Metolius. When he said that, I'm like, what?
But, yeah, he does it. A good pair of base layers underneath for your legs is going to really help you enjoy the day more, because you are going to be out in some really cold water in some really cold air temperatures. So I definitely am going to recommend a good pair of waders, good pair of under layering underneath the waders. Of course, we've got stuff like that. This time of year, boot foot waders I think are fantastic. Your feet are gonna thank you, trust me. If you have any circulation issues whatsoever, boot foot waders are the bee's knees. It's gonna keep your feet nice and warm all throughout the rest of this season. So I'd recommend that. And then just great layering up on top, because again, water is cold, air temps are cold. Bull trout love really cold water, really cold, clean water, and you're going to be standing in it all day long.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you've winter steelheaded, dress like you're winter steelheading.
100%.
This time of year. I mean, August, September, early October, not as much. It doesn't get quite as cold. But once you start getting into late October, November, December, dress like you are winter steelheading. Could bring a raincoat, bring layers, wool gloves, wool socks. You want to be warm.
You do, because it will make what could have been a great day a really bad day really fast. So, all right, excellent. I think that covers everything in gear. Is there anything else that you think we're leaving out on gear?
I don't think so.
Polarized glasses, you care about that as much? I mean, it might just piss you off because you're going to see all the fish, but...
I mean, glasses, I think, are always 100% of the time a good thing to have on.
Okay.
Polarized out there isn't a huge deal because it's so dang clear.
It is, yeah.
You don't necessarily need them. It does help. I always wear them more so for the fact of eye protection.
Eye protection. Got some big flies like that. You don't want one of those lodged in your retina.
Yeah, I mean, that hook would go straight through my eye. I would rather keep my eye. So I always wear glasses, but having polarized, you'll see a few more fish,
Sure.
but it's a very clear river.
Yep.
Especially on a sunny day, you're going to see a lot. So it's not a huge deal out there.
All right.
Especially if it's going to piss you off seeing more fish.
Yeah, which it will.
Yeah, exactly.
100% will.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead. We've covered types of water tactics, gear. Let's go ahead and we're going to jump into some flies that we like and why we like them. All right, so now it's time to talk some flies, and we do have a lot of different options of flies that we will fish, like Gabe was talking about. We've got nymphs, we've got streamers, we've got articulated, non-articulated. So Gabe, walk us through a few flies, for instance, that we carry. Again, I think the big thing, talk a little bit about color and time of year, that we focus on color and even what we can do with Sharpies for some flies to make them more enticing for these bull trout. So walk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, year round for streamers, black and white, never going to fail you.
So kind of like this guy right here.
Yeah, you got, black and white, bait fishy looking stuff. It's always going to work. Size and profile. Breaking more into specifically the lake run aspect, now you are going to be more so imitating something specific. So
Right.
when those kokanee first come in, I mentioned this a little bit, they're going to be normal kokanee colors, silvers, grays, normal fresh salmon colors. But just like any other salmon, as they move their way up the river system and get ready to spawn, they're going to quickly become a red and green color, zombie looking.
Zombie.
So this is where, honestly, we don't have a ton of great options as far as that color goes, just because it's such a niche, weird thing. When I start getting into this is where I tie a lot of flies. But reds and greens kind of mashed in together look really good. Any nasty zombie looking stuff start to do really well as you start to get a little later into the kokanee spawn, like right now, late September and so forth. And then as you get even later into the year, this is another one we're not going to have a ton on, or actually really much of at all, because this one's even more niche. now you get later into the season, these salmon are spawned out or getting a lot more. They're starting to decay more. So now they're going to be reds, greens with some flesh in there. So what you can do is you can tie these flies in flesh colors and then come through with a Sharpie and draw them up how you like. So come through with a red and a green Sharpie and make it look like that fish is partially decaying. You can totally just fish flesh colored flies too, because they do eat the flesh. But
that is, again, we talked about this very early on in the video. This is a species that, you know, just because the fish is almost dead or dead, they'll still eat it. They're looking for they are looking and hunting for protein, any form of protein. So those flesh colored flies are hugely successful later in the season, especially, which we're getting into. October is kind of your prime kokanee spawning. Get into November, they're starting to decay more, starting to get that color, that flesh color, and that's when those really start to work. And that'll work all the way through November, essentially.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool in that aspect, how as the season progresses with these lake runs, you can kind of change the color you're throwing. But with that being said, black. Anything black, if you think about it, fish don't see color the same way we do. Black is going to give off the best silhouette out of any of the colors, just because it's black. You know, it's going to give a much better silhouette. So as long as you have the size and profile, you know, close, and it's black, you have a good chance of doing very well with a black fly. I like to, you know, spice it up a little bit. I like to get a little more crazy, and
you do like getting crazy with your flies.
Yeah, I mean,
hot pinks and
I tie some weird stuff. I like to. I mean, any fish, I'm like, what can I catch this fish on that is incredibly dumb?
Yeah.
I mean, bass, pink crayfish, bull trout, like just some of the stupidest looking things that work. You know, but that I personally like to get a little bit into that crazier, weird stuff. The reds, the greens, the reds and greens mixed in with the flesh. I don't do a ton with, you know, majority flesh, but I like to spice it up. And the other thing with these flies, this one doesn't have a ton, but most of these other ones, you notice there's a lot of flash in there. So you have quite a bit of flash. Bull trout love the flash. It's like spinners. There's a reason why spinners are so productive. It's because it just pisses them off. This thing's just right in its face.
So throwing a lot of crystal flash in your flies, things like flashaboo.
Flashaboo, yeah. I mean,
legs.
Yep.
Even the action of those legs is enough to piss them off.
I'm sure a lot of you have heard us talk about a leggy boy, seen it in other videos. A fly that I really like to tie is a leggy boy, but instead of the legs, I replace every step that involves legs with flash. So I call it a flashy boy.
Super creative.
Yep, real creative. You know, it's a very good bait fish profile, very accurate size of what those lake runs are going to be eating this time of year, and it moves very well, and then you have a ton of flash in there instead of legs. So I've kind of made a little spin on it. Not really, because it's just replacing one step, but it works very well. It's also a cool fly because you can do a lot of weird things with it. So that's out of all the patterns I tie for them. Just replace the legs and a leggy boy with a bunch of flash.
Okay, great. Now, as we kind of wind this video down, let's talk a little bit about the reverse migration. These bull trout do live in the lake about 8 months out of the year. And is it possible to fly fish for these bull trout in the lake as well?
Yeah. So in the springtime, Lake Billy Chinook opens back up for bull trout fishing. A lot of times when it opens, it's a little too cold. Boat ramps are iced over. You can't really get a boat in there. But once everything starts to thaw up, like my dad mentioned, they love clean and cold water. So the earlier you get into Lake Billy Chinook, the better. And I really enjoy the Lake Billy Chinook aspect. It's reminds me of fishing for tiger muskie or bass. You are running down a bank on the trolling motor, just casting at the bank. It's not super visual. You're down pretty deep in 20 feet of water.
Yeah.
But you're just working down the bank, banging it, and stripping flies back. Majority of these fish are going to be in the Metolius arm, cleaner, colder water with the Metolius feeding it.
Yep.
But I've had some very, very productive days out there. Again, like I mentioned earlier, just because you're fishing in Lake Billy Chinook doesn't mean every fish you catch is going to be 30 inches.
No, I mean, when we did the first trip with Jeremiah, I landed a couple, and there wasn't anything that was close to setting any records. But
No.
it is a unique fishing opportunity here in the Pacific Northwest to be on a lake of that magnitude, that size, find the shoals, right? Because that's kind of what we're looking for, is those shoals where the drop-offs are, where the kokanee, the whitefish, that's what they're feeding on for the most part, and working those shoals and stripping them in. It's honestly super unique. And I'm going to say one thing about the really large bull trout that you're probably going to hate me for saying. They are freaking hideous.
Yeah.
They are not good looking fish. I honestly, some of the smaller bull trout, their coloration, I don't know, they just are a more attractive looking fish than these 20-pound bulls that
Yeah, I mean, once you get into that 20-pound range, they're
gnarly.
They're gnarly.
They're old boots.
I've caught some larger fish, well over 2 feet that are super pretty. But yeah, once you get into that really large fish range, they look pretty gnarly. The other cool thing about Lake Billy is, I mean, we experienced this a little bit. I've experienced it quite a few times out there at this point. You could be fishing spot after spot. You're like, man, there's nothing. And then you go to one spot and it's just like bang, bang, bang,
it's fish
bang,
after
bang.
Fish.
They congregate, they travel together.
They're traveling where the food source is.
Yeah, they're following food around. So a lot of times when you find one, you find many.
Because kokanee are a schooling fish too,
Exactly.
and so they're following the kokanee, right? They're going where their food source is. So I mean, that's kind of like a dead giveaway. You find kokanee, you're gonna find bull trout. They're going where the food source is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you could be out there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You're like, where are these fish? And then all of a sudden it's just like,
throw a fish finder on there and find your kokanee, schools of kokanee, and it's kind of like finding a bait ball out in the salts and fishing bait balls. Kind of a similar principle there. So that's great. I'm gonna bring you back in the spring, and we're actually gonna hype more of the lake fishing, because I do think that opens up a ton of water. Yep. Right, Lake Billy Chinook, especially the Metolius Arm, it's pretty expansive, and it gives a lot of opportunity for a lot of different anglers. If you got a boat, you're gonna want a motor on it and a trolling motor, and so it's not necessarily the easiest thing. You can hook up with Gabe, and he can take you on a guide trip out there. But it's a great thing. I'm going to bring you back in the spring right as we get started on that, and we're going to talk about bull trout in Lake Billy Chinook. But as we wrap this up, one thing that we want to talk about, because inevitably someone's going to say, you're not supposed to fish for bull trout in the state of Oregon, it's illegal. I want to address that. Bull trout is a protected species, and there is no doubt about it. That's why we talked earlier about we want to land these fish quickly, we want to keep them wet, super fast photo, handle them as little as possible, get them back in the river. They are protected. But there are some places that you can legally target bull trout. And so, Gabe, walk us through a little bit about that and why you feel confident that it's okay to be targeting some bull trout in these locations.
Yeah, I mean, there are very few places in Oregon that you can target them. I'm not going to come on here and blow them up. I mean, everyone knows the Metolius, but there are some out more in eastern Oregon that people get pretty quiet about.
Sure.
That I can think of. I mean, I can really only think of 3 or 4 rivers that you are, really 3, that you are legally allowed to target them in Oregon.
Yep.
Many more rivers have them that you can bycatch.
Yep.
But if you get caught illegally targeting them on those rivers, you're in some
trouble.
Hot water.
Yeah.
They take it pretty serious when it comes to protecting those fish. You have the 3 rivers I mentioned, at least that I can think of right now, and then Lake Billy Chinook. Those are the 4 places that you can really target them. They're a very cool fish. They were almost extinct at a time. They were in many more rivers, and they have since re-implemented them into the upper Clackamas. You're not allowed to target them at all there.
And we do not.
Nope.
And we do not condone or we don't support targeting bull trout in locations that you are not allowed to target them. Leave them alone. You catch them in a bycatch, that's fantastic. Get them back in the water quickly. I think they are an absolutely amazing creature. And we need to take care of them.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, we need to take care of them.
Yeah, and I think the Upper Clackamas is just a cool example for me. They re-implemented them 15 or 20 years ago at this point. And there's a pretty healthy population of them up there. I've seen them in there. I've had them try and eat fish, like rainbows and whitefish off my line. So it's kind of cool to see them make a rebound up there.
But we're not targeting them.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just like to use it as an example that if we take care of these fish, who knows, someday maybe they will open it up there. I'm not ODFW. I have no idea, but it would be cool. But yeah, there's very few places you can target them. They get really big. We don't have many trout in Oregon. Well, really any that get to the size that these bull trout can. There's
Hawaii.
There's a few places that we have some large browns.
Yep.
But I don't really think that there's any place where you could go possibly catch a 20-pound brown in Oregon. I mean, there are some extremely large bull trout, and they are very aggressive, and they love eating streamers. So.
And the reason why we feel confident sharing this with all of you is this is a system between Lake Billy Chinook and the Metolius River that is a healthy system. It is clean water. These bull trout are healthy and strong. It's why ODF and W in the state says this is a place we can safely go after bull trout. But again, it doesn't mean that we abuse that, right? It means we take care of those fish. We catch them just like we do anything else, catch and release. We keep them wet. We get a quick photo if you need a photo, and you get them right back in the water. But you're not fishing them with light gear and light tackle. You're getting those fish landed quickly. And we're taking care of these fish. But it really truly is a unique fishing opportunity that we have for months. Really, the big fish in the river system, September, October, November, a little bit in December, gives us some options as we start seeing closures of our western rivers. So we hope that you guys will come in here, ask us more questions. That's what we're here for. On Fly Fishing Unfiltered, we're all about making fly fishing more fun, easier to understand, and accessible to all. We're not a fly shop that's going to give out secret locations on the internet. Yeah, some of you haters out there have said, oh, you're giving out all the secrets. No, we're not giving out secrets. We're giving information to encourage people to fly fish. That's what we're about. We're a fly shop. We want people to fish. And so that's what this video is about. It's what all of our videos are about, making it more accessible, teaching people how to be able to enjoy fly fishing year-round, because the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, we can truly go out and target a vast array of species all year long. And so we hope that you'll come in, you'll ask us more questions. You can ask us questions in the comment section. We welcome questions always. Hit us up on email. However you want to reach out to us, ask us questions. We are here to support you in your fly fishing journey. We love what we do. When we're not working, we're fishing. We're passionate about fly fishing, and we want you to have a bunch of success all season long. So Gabe, thank you again for joining me. Really appreciate your insight into bull trout. I know that you love chasing this species. I love chasing this species. So thank you for being a part of this video. We'll bring you back in the spring, if not sooner, to talk about the lake bull trout. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button right there, because we've got a ton more content coming your way, from how-to videos to some live videos on rivers, literally live. Thank you, Elon Musk, for all of your satellites up there. Super excited to do some live events as well. Also, make sure you subscribe for our newsletter. We've got tons of functions coming up. We have a lot of groups that are being started from within Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters. We got Ripple Effect, which is out there for people who are battling against substance abuse in their past and looking for healthy releases. We've got Gills and Gals, which is our ladies group that get together, taking both those groups out to the Deschutes in the month of November, so looking forward to that. Make sure that you join that newsletter. subscribe to that newsletter, and you're going to get updates on all of those events, plus film tours and everything that Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters is now known to be supporting. So again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you tuning in to Fly Fishing Unfiltered. This channel is all for you, so let us know what you want us to cover. And until then, we will see you next time.